to start by giving you an inner monologue experiment. So I'm going to show you a series of images, and I want you to formulate a single word of feeling in your brain. This is not a mirror of the crowd, though many of you may be on your devices. Is that word frustration? Annoyance? About your students? So let me ask you a question. How many of us work in a school that has a one-to-one virtual reality program right now? One hand. How many of you work in a school that has students where everybody has a smartphone or a device in their pocket? Virtually everybody. So keep your hand up. Let me ask you again. How many of you work in a school with a one-to-one virtual reality program in your school? The answer is you do. You may not realize it because it has snuck up on us, but using the hardware that is inside of our students' pockets that is more powerful than the computer that took our first people to the moon, you have a one-to-one virtual reality hardware program already procured and in your school. So if you're seeing this as frustration, annoyance, and as an enormous problem, I challenge you to see this as an enormous opportunity. I'll show you a couple of examples of what we're doing at the Istanbul International Community School inside of our virtual reality department that we've spread across all grade levels, working in between different grade levels, breaking down that wall, in between subject levels, just breaking down that wall, and with schools all around the world, so breaking down the physical walls of our school in a virtual way. What this allows us to do, it allows us to build and make and demonstrate learning in a way that works outside of the dangers of doing practical things like this, outside of the expense of doing massive projects, avoiding the danger, and the distance of things that we're trying to learn and explain and demonstrate in our classrooms that we just cannot in our actual reality here. And some of the things that we're doing in our school are pretty incredible. I'd like to share them with you. This is the baby steps of us moving into this place. Our places, the software that we're using is virtually free. Virtually. CoSpaces costs next to nothing, and A-Frame is an open source virtual reality framework built inside of HTML that is free and open source and ready for you to start using right now. And here's what we're doing in our school. Last year, we kicked off our virtual reality program with this project. The challenge was to find a historical landmark somewhere on this planet, investigate how that structure is built, recreate it in virtual reality, and then investigate what problem does that structure have and formulate a solution, a prototype. This is a one-to-one scale virtual reality experience of where the Great Wall of China reaches the end of China and into the sea. This student investigated this problem and found that the major problem with this chunk of this landmark is that water erosion is coming up and is slowly eroding it away. So the prototype, if you look carefully on the sides, are these massive concrete barriers that dynamically change with the shifting and tides of that water that's crashing into the sea, crashing into the building. So it's protecting that area, and it's protecting it in a way that is reacting dynamically to the problems being caused. And just for fun, you also built a water park coming off of it, with a bunch of water slides going into the ocean. This student reconstructed the Notre Dame. We were able to recreate this. He threw it into virtual reality. We blew it up to scale, put on a few headsets, just took our student phones out, put them into Google Cardboard headsets that we printed out and built ourselves, and we're able to walk through the Notre Dame. Not only were we able to walk through the details of the Notre Dame, we were also able to defy gravity because we're not confined by the physics of this reality were outside of it. So able to fly around and see the details. And this student wanted to solve the problem of tourist traffic. He had recently been to Paris on holiday and was frustrated that it was difficult to get from the Eiffel Tower to the Notre Dame quickly. So he wanted to build a prototype that would build a tram car between the two. So he, a 9th grader, worked with a 4th grader who designed the Eiffel Tower and put this into virtual reality. And our 9th grader and our 4th grader came together and built a prototype solution to improve the tourism industry in Paris. This is a 4th grader doing this. We threw this into a 360 virtual reality world so that we can compare this design against the real Eiffel Tower. And we're breaking down those barriers. It's not just 9th graders working with 9th graders. Our earthquake project allowed us to connect into humanities, where we could not only discuss the physics of how an earthquake collapses a building, but start researching and understanding why does a doorway collapse differently in San Francisco than it does in Kathmandu. And through that research, finding out that it's more than just how you structure a doorway. That there's budgets involved, there's materials involved, there's cultural things involved, there's government bureaucracy involved. Why is this? And the power of the earthquake simulation inside of our virtual reality is that we're able to simulate that identical earthquake across every single student. So we're taking that formal model of maybe building something out of Legos and shaking it and looking at how something collapses, which is different every single time, and we're able to standardize the turbulence of this earthquake. So everybody's getting the exact same earthquake that they're trying to create doorways that will resist that major problem going on in the world. Our EAL students last year were demonstrating their understanding of the English vocabulary by creating comic books. These were real crude 2D panels where they were just sketching in little pieces. And this year, we created this virtual reality simulation where these two characters are communicating back and forth. So our EAL students of all grade levels are demonstrating their command of the language and how characters walk and talk back and forth to each other. We would then take this and augment it onto the desk in front of our entire classroom as a hologram, and our students would come up and present and speak in English, explaining their process and what's going on in this story. A whole new way of... You bet, please. Our 4th graders were aching for a snow day in Istanbul that we were used to getting every single year, and we did not get this year. So we built a snow day inside of virtual reality, inside of this augmented reality. So students learned how to build snowmen, they learned how to navigate that 3D space, did a bunch of other fun things. We've got Santa Claus with his elves. If you look really closely, there's a Grinch creeping in through the side. So we had a fun day building this augmented reality space. And then we turned that into this, where our students are redesigning their playground in the back lot and redefining what they want that playground to look like. And not only are they building it, we can augment it and place it right on top of the existing playground and see what that's going to look like. This came with a lot of surprises. We thought they were going to focus on equipment, slides, swing sets, and what surprised us was they started creating green spaces, a flower garden, a butterfly area over there, forestry in the background. They did all kinds of natural things that we didn't expect. They're going to pitch this to the school board this year. They're going to take this augmented reality, take it to the school board, show them what they want their playground to look like. This level of student agency is something we were unable to do before. And then they're going to be pushing for, this is the kind of design that we want to be done over the summer. This is the space that we're playing and learning in every single day. Our IICS 3D project was a massive month-long project by our 9th graders last year who created a virtual reality simulation of our entire school. This is our campus. Every wall, every doorway, every book in the library. They needed to come together and collaborate in an entirely new way. Typically, collaboration in schools ends up being groups of 3 to 4 students. This was 15 students who worked together to recreate our school. They needed to establish norms of scale. There were a bunch of mistakes that were made up front. They needed to figure out, you know what, it doesn't make sense for us all to be 3D modeling and creating a virtual reality version of every single chair in this entire school when they're all the same. So they worked together and thought of an idea. We'll build a repository where if I build a chair, I've built all the chairs. We put it in one place and everybody can grab it out. We can launch this to scale, so we can be inside of our VR school, laying on top of our school at a 1-to-1 size, and then explore things like what happens when the sea levels change and rise up on our school. And we can be standing there and seeing where in the school does the water come in as climate change affects our school. Start tying this into all kinds of other subjects and lessons that are going on. Our AR museum project allowed us to break down what we're doing with augmented reality all around the world. So we printed out a couple of these paper symbols that are up on the wall, and students created their own museums of a history of whatever type of science they like. This happens to be the science of medicine. What was fantastic about this was that we were able to curate massive museum structures just in one hallway and load up different experiences as we went through 15 to 20 different students who built these out. And where it really got cool was that we were able to take those projects and send them to a school in Canada they were friendly with, and we ended up curating a museum in Canada for them to learn about the history of medicine. They're building their own museums and sending them to us, and they're creating learning opportunities for us to see and observe and walk through in our school in augmented reality without even seeing our space, without even really needing to pay any attention that we are on the opposite side of the world from each other. Our City in the Sea project is a massive humanities/maths project collective where 7th graders work to build a city, a hypothetical city that takes place in the sea. And each small group of students creates their small block of that city, and then they work out the politics, the budget, the bureaucracy, the city planning, everything that goes into making cities. This is a little example of them building this out. That's the planning document, each segment of the sea, and here's the virtual reality of this. 2 years ago, this was being done with cardboard tubes from toilet paper and cracker boxes. We're able to toss this into virtual reality and have a student be able to walk down the street of the hypothetical city they created, while students are able to see the mirrored image of what that student experience is. So we're able to take that entire piece of that, have it in virtual reality, and walk through and understand, hey, why did my neighbor put the sanitation efforts next to my residential apartments? We need to have a communication and build a better, smarter city by being able to better understand what's happening in that city through VR. Our augmented reality allowed us to lay over our cardboard cutout version of it with an augmented reality piece of it, overlaid on a cube that can be rotated and presented to anybody in our school. So we can show, here's the residential areas highlighted on one side of the cube, turn the cube, show another aspect of it, the industrial pieces of it, show a timeline of the city being built over time as we rotate through this cube. Our 3D virtual reality maze project is coming together right now. We're doing this currently, so we're learning how to code this virtual reality environment just using raw code. And you can load up this web page on your phone, and it is a virtual reality experience right now. This will tie into our larger semester project, where we're creating virtual reality advocacy experiences. So exploring the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, choosing one of those goals, doing our investigation, figuring out what's going on, what's wrong, why do these goals need to be in place, who's impacted by this, and instead of creating a mini documentary version of what that advocacy looks like, we'll be able to drop people into that virtual experience and give them a whole new perspective of what we're trying to accomplish by reaching those goals. And maybe the coolest project we've got going on right now is this smart fire map system. So this is a combination of virtual and augmented reality built in CoSpaces, where this student saw a problem where if you've got anywhere in the world, you go into a building and there are maps of how to evacuate a building in the event of a fire. What that doesn't do is reroute you if your closest exit out happens to go through the fire. So this student created a prototype of a project that would Internet of Things, so hook up all of the fire alarms, so we knew where an alarm would be going off somewhere in the building, and dynamically update that fire escape map to route traffic away from the emergency and also their closest exit. How many lives could this save? How does an 8th grader get a patent on this life-saving device that will certainly be everywhere in a few years? What we need to avoid is ending up here. And the power of these virtual reality devices in every student's pocket is how we avoid taking this step and how we get into a place where we're teaching virtual reality and building these demonstration of learning inside of the familiar environment of their existing classrooms. Because if we're not here, and we don't want to be here because this turns into this, when where we need to be is here. Here's a group of students who have a virtual reality headset on. They're exploring what a roller coaster simulation looks like, and they're taking notes of how her body's feeling, how she's feeling emotionally, and they're constructing a document on what are the impacts of virtual reality on a person so that they can build a stronger environment and better experiences for each other. So one more time, if we don't end up here, we've got to jump into here. And the workshop I'm running right after this, immediately after this, is how to start this up, and you can be doing this in your schools on Monday. In 36 hours, you can be starting your virtual reality program in your school. Super, super powerful. We're going to be creating a virtual reality CEESA parade this afternoon, so everyone's going to be building their chunk of the parade that will be seen together, and we'll have a virtual reality celebration of CEESA happening with a whole block party going up and down. So nothing to it but to do it, right? So we should be doing it today, and we should be doing it together. Thank you.